All right, welcome everybody to stream number 2 today. Did a stream earlier today with the Anthony Fauci, Dr. Redfield, Stephen Hahn, Dr. Admiral Giroir, and did a few hours of that. Did today's broadcast show and podcast, did today's members only bonus show, and now we are back again just 16 to 100 minutes, depending on how late she is today. The latest press briefing from Donald Trump's press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. We are monitoring any number of different feeds scheduled to start at the top of the hour, and glad to be back with you. My prediction is this stream might be a little wackier than the last one. Although I have to say, 20 new members last stream. Nothing to sneeze at for a stream that started when it was still 6 in the morning on the West Coast of the United States, if you can imagine. Let me answer and address a few super chats, and then I've got some clips to play for you. We're going to look at testing numbers. I said yesterday that I believe my hair is long enough to actually make a ponytail right now. I've got in the back, I don't know if you can see it. Hold on, let me see here. See how there's a fistful in the back. I could make that into a ponytail, and I promised to yesterday if we got to 50 members, but we did not. We didn't. So then that's it. You know, if I just give it all away for free, I'm training people I'm reinforcing negative behavior, to use a Pavlovian term. But in any case, there's no ponytail today, although it is theoretically possible. Okay, super chats that have come in. Nasty Questions says, we are so lucky to have 2 David Pakman streams today. Yes, yes. Zesty African says, Dave Pakman, more like Dave Ping Ping Ding Dinger. What's your favorite movie from the last year? I don't even know. I barely watch movies. My favorite movie from the last year. I don't even know. I just rarely watch movies. I watch documentaries and series, really. I'll have to think about that. Thanks to Nick the Gamer for signing up on YouTube. Cyrus Palmer, or Cyrus Palmer says, here comes the bragging about testing, downplaying the threat, and attacks on journalists who ask real questions. Yeah, Kayleigh's last press briefing started like 40 minutes late and lasted 22 minutes, was it? 23 minutes, something like it's a joke what's going on. Most transparent administration, they claim to be. Absolutely bonkers. Let me say thank you to John Imber. John Imber has just signed up at joinpakman.com and is new member number 1 today. Appreciate that, John. Let's see here. TJ says, any traction to the rumor of Trump's association with a missing hooker in New York in the late 90s? I don't know if that's real, but I've never heard about that before. Ken Clive says, embrace your inner wastelander and let the hair grow, Dave. I don't have a choice. I mean, there's no haircut in sight for me right now. Nathaniel Haney has grabbed a YouTube membership. Sam Dean says, "G'day, Dave. 3:44 in the morning here in Melbourne, Australia. Good luck." Great to see you, Sam. Sam seems to keep pretty late hours there, I'll tell you that. Want to say thanks also to BC Chip for subscribing with Twitch Prime, as well as Invalid Axiom, Fairy Tigers, Annie Greenfield, and Meticulous 7. Wow. A lot of action over on Twitch. Okay, I'm going to review, as I tend to do, the latest coronavirus official numbers. We are at 4.3 million confirmed cases globally, and we are approaching 300,000 global deaths. Okay. Yesterday, we had 74,000 new cases and 3,400 new deaths. If we look at new cases, we see that Russia and Brazil are 2 dramatically growing hotspots. USA and UK have been up there for a while. India is the other one. Okay. So we look at Russia. As you can see, this is not the trajectory you want. Things are getting very quickly very bad in Russia. If you look at Brazil, notice, by the way, both of these places have whacked authoritarian leaders. Brazil is not going particularly well as the curve goes. 2 lower days, which may be related to weekends. A lot of countries have lower reporting on weekends, and you can kind of see that in prior numbers. Brazil is not looking particularly good. And then India was not testing for a very long time. So we don't really know, like, are things actually getting that much worse in India? or is it that they're now testing? It's probably a combination of both, but things not looking good in India either. In the United States, we now have just shy of 1.4 million cases. Remember that on a per population basis, we have 4.2% of the world's population and about a third of all the cases. We are now at 82,555 deaths. And once again, if we look at new cases yesterday, we are seeing that New York, California, Illinois, and New Jersey are still at the top in the raw number of new cases, but they have dramatically declined from their peaks. On the other hand, you have places like Virginia, Texas, Maryland was an early place, Ohio, Tennessee, which were not early hotspots that now regularly have some of the most new cases per day. So things crisscrossing, some of the early states doing better, some of the states that didn't really take closing seriously are now starting to get dramatically worse, very, very much worse. In terms of testing, yesterday we did 388,000 tests. That's great. That's, I believe, the most we've ever done, other than, I think there was like one day somewhere in here, and it might have been an anomaly. I don't even see it. That's good. Remember that we need to, at a minimum, get to 500,000 a day. And most experts believe we need to be somewhere in the range of 1 million to 1.5 million tests per day. We're currently about 39th, I believe, in per capita testing globally. So that's the update there. And basically, you now have all of the latest testing information that I have. The test numbers are at covidtracking.org if anybody wants to see that. And then you can also find per capita testing numbers by country on the worldometers.info website. Welcome to everybody who's watching on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Mixer today. Hello, Mixer. Really appreciate you joining me. And we are just 10 minutes away from the official start time of today's White House press briefing with Kayleigh McEnany, Trump's press secretary. Other super chats are coming in, and I would love for you to send a question or a comment if you're watching on YouTube via super chat. Mart Fillion says, we'll love to see the reaction of the Trump administration when the reopening goes out of control. I mean, listen, I hope it doesn't happen, but it's not looking good in some of these states. Seth Barham says, hi, David, I just witnessed my neighbor commit first-degree Obamagate. Should I report it to the FBI or the local police? I believe that that's a federal issue. Yeah, let's actually get to that real quick. Some of the key moments from yesterday's press briefing. Here is Donald Trump being asked by Triggerer-in-Chief Philip Rucker of the Washington Post. Philip Rucker, excellent at triggering Trump. Take a look at this, my friends. It's wacky. Strap in for this one.
Go ahead, Phil.
Mr. President, in one of your Mother's Day tweets, you appear to accuse President Obama of the biggest political crime in American history by far. Those were your words. What crime exactly are you accusing President Obama of committing, and do you believe the Justice Department should prosecute him?
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time.
Trump has been the victim of the crime of Obamagate for a long time.
It's been going on from before I even got elected. And it's a disgrace that it happened. And if you look at what's gone on, and if you look...
It happened. Oh, the crime of Obamagate happened.
Look at now all of this information that's being released. And from what I understand, that's only the beginning. Some terrible things happened, and it should never be allowed to happen in our country again.
It should. Listen, it's illegal. It's been happening for a long time. It was terrible, and it should never be allowed to happen again. What, though? Oh, yeah, Obamagate. Obamagate.
And you'll be seeing what's going on over the coming weeks. But
over the coming period of time, we're going to be looking at it very closely.
Wish you'd write honestly about it, but unfortunately, you choose not to do so. Yeah, John, please.
Crime. What is the crime exactly that you're accusing him of?
You know what the crime is. The crime is very obvious to everybody. All you have to do is read the newspapers, except yours.
Right.
John, please.
Every newspaper but the Washington Post is talking about it. And then here is the climax and subsequent denouement of yesterday's press briefing. We're going to first see CBS correspondent Weijia Jiang ask why everything's a competition for Trump while people are dying, followed by CNN's Caitlin Collins triggering Trump into abandoning the press briefing, Trump rage quitting, as the term may be.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if everyday Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China.
Now understand, think about her question. Why is everything a competition for you when people continue to die? He says, go ask China that question. What? Why? First of all, there's two interpretations. Ask China why everything is a competition for Trump. What would China know about that? Or ask China why everything is a competition for them, which it doesn't seem to be because we're not hearing from China that they have the best and most testing. It's a weird question.
Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Yeah, the unusual answer would be, I don't know, we're not bragging about being the best at testing.
What, sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question
That's
like
not
that.
a nasty
Please
question.
go ahead.
All right, and
Why
then
is it
brace
not?
yourselves.
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But
We'll
you
go over
pointed
here.
to me. I have two questions, Mr.
Next,
President.
next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the
wanted
young
to,
lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague
Okay.
finish. But can I ask you a
Ladies and
question?
gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate
Rage
it.
quit.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Alt F4. And there he goes. Extremely special snowflake, Donald Trump. To apply a term that I don't even use. Like, I don't even use that term, but we're just, you know, they use it, and we are showing how ridiculous of a thing to say it is. So there it is, Trump bailing. And that I think is why it is not a particularly good idea for Trump to do the press briefings, and he's been doing them less and less frequently. And I think that is probably smart. People getting banned on Twitch. I love it. All right, very good. The moderators have not had to drop the ban hammers too much recently on YouTube nor on Twitch, but I am seeing that the ban hammer is being dropped. I am curious what went down. I'm sure it was ugly. But anyway, yeah, remember, even though the moderators are sparing with the ban hammer use, they will use it when it is required, and they are fully deputized in order to do it. And by the way, you've got to do something pretty damn bad to get banned from my YouTube or Twitch channels. And yeah, anyway. Okay, other super chats coming in. Zesty African says, from the standpoint of water, Obamagate is real. Absolutely. Carl Smith says, do you think Trump would go so far as to make up evidence and getting his corrupt Republican senators to charge Obama with fake evidence? I don't know that Trump would make up evidence, but it would not shock me to see Trump push the Justice Department to bring some kind of bogus political charges against Donald Trump, against Barack Obama. I'm not predicting it would happen, but if it did, it would not be beyond this president. And that's a scary thing. Mart Fillion says, of course, nobody wants the reopening to go out of control, but I was just curious to see the lies that will be used to blame somebody else. Yeah, I understand. Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to welcome a very special person on Twitch. Beryllium Poisoning has just subscribed with Twitch Prime with the message, a beautiful, inspiring message of peace and love. Beryllium Poisoning says, my boy Deepak. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so I see people are tuning in and wondering what's going on. We are just waiting for the start of Kayleigh McEnany's press briefing. It's scheduled for essentially now, but we don't know exactly when it will start. Usually, does anybody know if there's a stream that's live in the room right now? Usually Fox cuts to a shot of the press briefing room in advance of the press briefing, and they haven't, which does not bode particularly well to us. Oh, there's people who are only here until Kayleigh starts speaking. Okay, that's fair. But if anybody's in the room, like if Washington Post has a stream that's going live, let's see if I can find one, because I'd like to get a sense of how close we are to starting. Maybe Washington Post. No, they don't see. Oh, by the way, if you are just joining, please make sure that on YouTube, you've liked the stream. That's extremely important. No, I'm not seeing that anybody's live in the room. Let me just check Washington Post. Post live. No, they are not live either. So I guess we're sort of on our own, as the case may be, for the time being. But we will keep an eye on that. Charlie says via super chat, Trump is so alpha that he completely lost it and ran off stage. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Oh, people are asking if I've seen the Andrew Yang Sam Harris podcast. I only saw a clip of the section about, this is the Fox stream for people who are telling me to look at Fox. It literally says Fox on the screen. I did see Andrew Yang talking about the Joe Biden dementia stuff and some Tara Reid stuff. And I mean, I basically agree with Andrew Yang's perspective. And I may have more to say about it at some point in the future, but basically agree with most of what Andrew Yang said there. Sam Dean says, what statement would you like to send to your overseas partners regarding these crazy times? We know this rubbish doesn't truly represent America. Yes, the message is, give us an opportunity to make this right. Give us an opportunity to do the right thing and remove Donald Trump in November. If we don't, then I understand if, American flights aren't allowed to go into other countries. I mean, like, understand the way things are going. Spain's curve is dropping. France is dropping. Germany's dropping. Italy's dropping. South Korea's barely even rose. We are not handling this well. And you could very much have a situation in a month or two where travel between the UK and Japan is back on, travel between Canada and Europe is back on, and Americans wouldn't be allowed to go to these places because we simply are not dealing with it the way that they are. It's going to get very, very ugly. And I still don't know that Trumpists would say, okay, Trump failed. We finally have to say it. Trump failed. I don't know. I think even then they may still stand behind him. David Tillery says, thanks again for all you do. Appreciate it, David. Thank you very much. Kevin McComber says, why would Medicare for all be better than a public option? Oh, Kevin, we have 100 clips about this stuff on the YouTube channel. I'm not going to go off into that right now, especially just minutes from the start of today's press briefing. But if you're curious, my take on those types of issues, we have endless videos about that on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. Very, very important stuff. Chess tournament. Yes, we are going to do another David Pakman Show chess tournament soon. Don't know when. It's just there's so many streams and so much stuff going on. Oh, hold on. Somebody said they found the Podium live, but links aren't allowed. Can you just describe how to find a live shot of the Podium? If anybody can tell me what to search on YouTube, like, do I type in, Washington Post live briefing, or what do I search for? The Time YouTube page. Love it. Time press briefing live. Love it. Absolutely love it. Although I'm not easily finding it. I'm finding archives. Ah, here it is. Beautiful. Appreciate that. Let's now get that element triggered on the screen. And here it is. Excellent. All right. We are about to be live in the room, and it's going to be tremendous. It's going to be unbelievable. Here we go. Ah, there we go. All right. Very good. So we are getting very, very close. Let me mention just one time, if you will indulge me. It's interesting. The less I talk about membership, people seem more interested in signing up, and we don't even have to spend much time talking about it. All of the work we do, this morning's stream, this stream, the podcast, the broadcast show, the bonus show, the TV show, the radio show, the clips, the full, all this stuff, it's mostly funded because a few of you, we estimate about 0.8% of our audience goes to my website and gets a membership, okay? If we could go from 0.8% of the audience supporting us to 1.5%, it would be a game changer. So I invite you, grab a membership at joinpakman.com. Not only will I thank you so profusely, but you can also take advantage of a 66% discount with the coupon code 2020now. This is winning, okay? These are elements of winning that are available on the website. And I know a lot of people, 20% of the country nearly, is now unemployed. A lot of people have canceled 722 in March and April. We're here for you for free. That we're producing either way. But if you are in the field of people that can afford a couple bucks a month to subsidize all that we do for everybody, I would really appreciate it. It's not a lot for lots of people. If it is, then I don't want your money. Okay, I froze there for a second, but we're back. But I really do appreciate everybody who's been supporting the streams, and everybody gets a thank you. Don't worry about it. Okay, let's see here. Donna Williams says, who should Biden select for vice president? I've kind of been leaning towards Elizabeth Warren lately. I have to be honest. I've been leaning towards Elizabeth Warren. I think that would be quite interesting from the standpoint of voting. But he said he was going to select a woman. So I think at this point, he probably has to make good on it, would be my sense of it. Okay, let's see here. Corey Keene says, do you think we should be sanitizing our streets? No, I think that makes almost no sense. And there is almost no contagion happening outdoors as a general thing. It's very, very little. So I do not believe we should be sanitizing our streets. Erythropathak says, I chess innately white supremacist. Why? Because white gets to go first. That is interesting. I believe it is. Chess is white supremacist by its very nature. Zesty African says, I'm a huge New Deal Democrat guy. I'll likely only be voting for Biden if he commits to dropping the Medicare age. Do you think it's likely? I thought he already did that. I thought he already said he was going to lower it to, was it 55? Or I remember he was going to lower it by an amount that would add about 20-something million people to the Medicare rolls. That's my recollection. Philip Carden has subscribed on YouTube, as has Pacey Bean, which I very much appreciate. Cone Nengerman says, love your show, David. Cheers from the Netherlands. Love the Netherlands. I've only had the pleasure of remember travel. I've only visited two places in the Netherlands, Amsterdam and Maastricht. Amsterdam and Maastricht. I went to Maastricht on a different trip where I was mostly in Belgium. Took a train down through Belgium and into Maastricht. Great little spot. And Amsterdam is just tremendous. Went to the Anne Frank Memorial House, Museum, call it what you want. Did we rent bikes in Amsterdam? I think we didn't. We didn't rent bikes, but I certainly had waffles. I had herring on the street. It was delightful. It really was. Beautiful time. Okay. Let me hold on. Joseph Curtis says, can't wait for you to finally go on the Joe Rogan podcast again. Joe has been spreading a lot of misinformation to his millions of listeners. Please save them and shut down the phony anti-Biden rhetoric. Yeah, I'm scheduled to be back on very, very soon. We're in the next period of time, from the standpoint of time, I am going to be appearing there very strongly, is the way I would put it. Let me say a few thank yous to some tremendous people. Elijah Solo Ohashi is new member number 2 today at joinpacman.com. Sasha Rowold is new member number 3 today at joinpacman.com. And Liz Davis, hey Liz, is new member number 4 today. Also, thank you to Brian Ashenfelter, who's new member number 5. And Cheryl Fairbrother is new member number 6. Love it. Love it. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, ASMR Sports says, did you see that Joe Rogan was calling McEnany a gangster because she had some garbage talking point typed up for her first press conference? Would love for you to call that out. Yeah, I'll talk to Joe about that. I mean, listen, here's the thing. Kayleigh McEnany is effective in that Trumpists and Trump think she's crushing it. That's really all that matters. That's all that matters. Don Jr. is tweeting about how great she is. Trump loves it. Trumpists think she's killing it. That's really all that matters. It's just an optics game. I mean, she lies about everything. She has weaponized her perverted version of Christianity into justifying the means for the ends, telling daily lies, I guess, for whatever reason she thinks it's good to prop up Trump. It's sick. But all that matters, I mean, listen, we're not voting for Trump anyway, right? So she has completely figured out a way to appeal to the exact people she's supposed to appeal to. Appreciate the super chat very much. Over on Twitch, there is a hype train going on, and it has stunningly reached level 4 proportions. We have Colors ATK, Reggie Nerd, Kim.com. I still am trying to figure out whether that is the Kim.com. We do follow each other on Twitter. Kim.com, again, gifting 10 subscriptions to people, which I love. Pinchy has subscribed with Prime. Very, very much appreciated. And it is wild what is going on Twitch right now. Very, very exciting. Megan Curran says, what's the over-under on Corona Kayleigh rage quitting today? She rage quits every press conference. I mean, every press conference, when she gets a nasty question, she leaves. So this you may find this funny. Last press briefing that I covered of Kayleigh's, we had an over-under for when she would tell the first lie at 3 minutes. And I took the over. I was stupid. I said it would take more than 3 minutes for her to lie. 12 seconds in, she had told her first lie. So let's do a different over-under. 10 seconds, okay? Will it take her more than 10 seconds to tell the first lie today, or less than 10 seconds to tell the first lie? We're almost going to have to go to like 3 seconds if it's under today. But I'm going to say, I'm going to take the over. I believe it will take her more than 10 seconds to tell the first lie today. I think she came out and said the U.S. is leading the world in testing with the most tests, which is, of course, a lie. We, at the time, were like 42nd per capita. We're now about 38th or 39th. One other thing. Let me address a talking point that's now spreading. The Trump administration is now repeating, hey, we now have more per capita testing than South Korea. That's true, and it is no longer relevant. Here's what is really important to understand. Early on, South Korea developed a test, started testing and contact tracing, and they were obliterating the United States in per capita testing for a long time. Now, South Korea did so well that the numbers have gone down dramatically. We can even look at them, actually. I think we can very easily find them here. So if you look at South Korea's numbers, South Korea only ever had 10,000 cases and 250. I mean, these numbers are incredible. And what you see is that it's been like 2 months since Korea even had cases. Like they've been under 150 cases a day for almost 2 full months. So we now have caught up to them in per capita testing. Why? Because our outbreak is lasting orders of magnitude longer than theirs. So now, all of a sudden, Kayleigh, McEnany, and Trump are saying, hey, everybody's bragging about South Korea this, South Korea that. We've tested as many people as them. Yes, months later, because they no longer need testing because nobody has coronavirus. Almost nobody has coronavirus in South Korea. So please don't fall for that one. Please don't fall for that one. It's a ridiculous talking point. Laughable, laughable. Okay, other super chats coming in. Let's see here. TJ says you need to reconsider and go on Joe Rogan as soon as possible because he has such a large influence. Listen, the reason I wasn't on last week was because I couldn't get a flight out. There's just no flights and we're not supposed to be flying around. It's been rescheduled to be done digitally or via teleconference as Trump. I'm sorry, I have to sniff in between. Teleconference. And it should be happening soon, I hope, with Joe. Tony O'Shea has subscribed on YouTube. Wade Flores says, hey, David, glad to hear you're going back on Rogan. Are you going to discuss the misinformation that Elon Musk was spreading on the last episode? I didn't see that episode, I have to admit. So I'll review it. Patrick E. has subscribed on YouTube. Lunchbox says, David, thank you for all you do. Pleasure. I appreciate your support. Mart Fillion says, you know what lies off of the bat. Yeah, she'll probably come out and lie about testing right away, is my guess at this point. Okay, let me say a few other new member thank yous. These are climbing dramatically all of a sudden. I want to say thanks to Laura McMillan, who's new member number 7 today. Thank you to Amanda Baker, who's new member number 8. Andrew Taylor is new member number 9 today. John Dalton is new member number 10. Very much appreciate that. Eric Cusick is new member number 11, and Edward Walsh is new member number 12. So appreciate your support. You know, it's there's been a lot going on for everybody, and we have dramatically increased our content. We're doing the almost daily streams, and it's worth it because clearly it's resonating with people, and people are supporting the work. And not everybody's even using the coupon code. The coupon code does save you 66%, but I see people who are foregoing the coupon code and just saying, give me the membership at joinpacman.com. And I'm not even taking the discount. Either way, we love it. We love it. Okay. Prime Daddy has subscribed on YouTube. Matt Allen says, hey, David, what are some good newspapers, websites, or strategies to take to be more informed in this age of misinformation? Check out my entire critical thinking miniseries. That's what I would recommend. It's less about an individual website, but it's about having the skills to apply critical thinking to whatever media sources you are consuming. That's what I would recommend more than any particular media outlets. Zesty African says, who's a better comedian, Dave Rubin or Dave Chappelle? Let me think about that. On the one hand, Dave Rubin did do that skit where he went out and asked people in the audience to raise their hands if they were gay. That was sort of funny. On the other hand, Dave Chappelle, it's really tough, guys. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Now, obviously, I think we all know the answer. Ricky Bankemper says, love your work, David. You should tell Joe Rogan you do karate. That's an interesting idea. I mean, it wouldn't be true. I did have a green belt when I was 7, but since then, karate has not been my big thing. There's this really weird thing happening where our website is reporting that there are 300 people on the website right now. But if I actually look at what pages people are on, it looks like it's only 50 people. That's really weird. I hope we're not under some kind of bizarre DDoS attack of some kind. That would not be good. That would be very bad, in fact. I hope that that's not what's going on right now. Weird. A couple of other thank yous. Jack Ellsworth has signed up on my website and is new member number 13. Also, Shane Olson is new member number 14, which I really appreciate. It looks like the website is operating very, very smoothly, which is exciting. People asking about the written version of the David Pakman Show in the chat. Yeah, so here's the deal. We relaunched our daily newsletter on Substack, and you can sign up for it at davidpakman.substack.com. It's totally free. Totally free. Next week, we will start the transition from just a plain old newsletter to a written digest of each episode. Some people, when people used to commute to work in a former era of the country, a lot of people would write to me saying, I kind of would rather read what's on the show in more detail. And so starting next week, we are going to start putting out this written version of sorts of the David Pakman Show. And you can sign up for it for free on my website or at davidpakman.substack.com. Free. It's all free. It costs nothing. I want to be clear about that. It costs nothing. Let's see here. Jacob Ratner says, Trumpists are tweeting about Obamagate. What is their argument? That Obamagate's been going on for a long time, and it's the biggest political crime ever perpetrated. Come on, man, get with the times. Tyler Tan says, Joe, I agree with whoever is in front of me, Rogan. I don't know that that's fair. Check out his recent interview with Dan Crenshaw, which I analyzed. John Willig says, off topic, but why are people considering Stacey Abrams for Biden's VP when she has so little experience? I don't think there's any chance Biden picks Stacey Abrams. I also don't know why people think that she might be the VP. I just don't see it. JHWH says, I'm no religious nut, but I'm Christian and pray for all of my fellow people in the U.S. I hope that you don't lose hope despite Trump's bad response. Well said. Binne Heidelbach has subscribed on YouTube. Keith Stone says, the EMP, the emperor has no clothes. The goggles, they do nothing. I like that. Brian Holiday says, what exactly is contact tracing? How is it done? So contact tracing would be someone is diagnosed with COVID, someone asks them about contacts and calls them. All right, let's listen in.
Hello, everyone. I want to highlight three critical aspects of President Trump's response to the coronavirus that have exceeded the media's expectations and should inspire confidence in every American across this country. Rest assured, the Trump administration is working tirelessly to defeat the invisible enemy. First, contrary to some media pronouncements, the United States did not need the 1 million ventilators thus far that the media said we were.
Okay, so she didn't lie in the first 10 seconds. She wins, or you guys win.
Every single American who has needed a ventilator has received a ventilator.
That's a lot.
And this administration has managed to procure, 100,000 ventilators to be manufactured in 100 days. That's extraordinary. That's 3 times the amount produced in the average year. Likewise, there was some concern about N95 respirators, but the Trump administration has now shipped over 90 million N95 respirators. Once again,
that's the number they've been using for weeks, by the way. Weird.
Healthcare industry consumption of N95 respirators in a typical year. Finally, the U.S. now leads the world in testing. For weeks, the media cited South Korea as being the gold standard for testing.
You all know,
but
I already
as it stands, we are now testing at a higher rate per capita than South Korea.
Because they have no cases because they solved this 6 weeks ago.
In all 50 states, we are now testing at a higher rate per capita than South Korea.
I told you guys.
A state in this country is testing at a higher
rate.
This
is why we would do the pre-show. You were all prepared for the South Korea lie.
Extraordinary, I would say. Now I would like to provide the American people with an update on the Trump administration's support for underserved communities. As the president has said, this country is at war with the invisible enemy. And while we all fight the virus as one united American people, it is a fact that this virus disproportionately has affected those in medically underserved communities. And therefore, the president has committed to delivering economic support and quality care for individuals in distressed communities. The Trump administration, as I announced last week, distributed $12 billion in provider relief payments to 395 hospitals across the country that have been hardest hit by the coronavirus. Many of these hospitals were in underserved communities, and to ensure even more funding to these communities, $2 billion of that overall funding was specifically targeted to hospitals in proportion to the amount of care they provide for low-income and uninsured patients. Additionally, the Trump administration is investing nearly $2 billion in community health centers to help their 28 million patients in medically underserved areas that receive care and the testing they need. That's what this funding is intended for. And additionally, there's $583 million awarded to 1,385 health centers in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 8 U.S. territories specifically geared towards testing.
A lot of gobbledygook
These
there.
health centers currently provide 100,000 tests per week, and 59% of the patients tested last week were from minority communities. Finally, under the Paycheck Protection Program, the Trump administration has done extensive outreach to the community development financial institution funds across the country. These are known as CDFIs, and they support revitalization in distressed communities. In the second round of PPP, 100,000 loans have been distributed to CDFIs and to MDIs, which are known as minority deposit institutions. These have amounted to about $6.2 billion. And finally, 570,723 loans have been issued to smaller lenders and non-banks, and these loans have amounted to $29.9 billion. President Trump will continue to fight for the health, safety, and economic well-being of all Americans, especially those impacted in low-income communities and disadvantaged communities. And with that, I'll take questions. Yes.
President Trump yesterday said the U.S. had prevailed on testing, but today we heard from senators, both Democratic and Republican, who say that's not the case. Senator Lamar Alexander, a Republican, says what our country has done so far in testing is impressive, but not nearly enough.
She has a page.
Senator Patty Murray, a Democrat, said we need dramatically more testing. It's unacceptable. We don't have a national strategic plan. What's the White House response?
Well, first I would note the words of Dr. Anthony Fauci, which is this: we will have and there will be enough tests to allow us to take this country safely through phase one. I've sat in the
Someday.
task force meetings where Admiral Joie has talked to governors and literally pulled out his chart and said, Governor X, here was your plan and your request for testing in order to safely reopen. I can assure you that that will be satisfied this month. So I have seen those meetings take place. I can assure the American people, in line with what Dr. Fauci has said, we do have enough for phase one. By the end of the week, we'll be able to say that we've conducted 10 million tests. You know, we went from doing 150,000 tests.
That's a meaningless number. 10 million. I mean, okay. Oh, is that a lot? Is it not a lot? What does that really mean?
To also note that that's 2 times what other countries are doing when you look at America's testing. I'd say that that's pretty impressive, and that's a testament to the work of this administration and the hard work of the private sector.
About reopening schools and also vaccines, if you don't mind. First of all, reopening schools, there were a lot of questions today up on the Hill about when indeed that can happen. When will the White House issue guidance benchmarks for various communities on when that can happen and how soon that can happen? There's a lot of concerned parents, as you know, across the country.
Yeah, well, you know, in our guidelines to safely reopen that are data-driven, it is phase 3 where there is an outline to beginning to open schools.
Right.
So
States are going to phase 1 without even meeting the guidelines to do it. So if states don't follow it, it's kind of worthless.
guidance that is in the works, that is forthcoming, that will provide additional details.
Okay, and with regard to vaccines, the question was asked when and if a vaccine becomes available, regardless of income, can the president ensure that everybody will get the vaccine, regardless of income?
Look, the president will go to great efforts to ensure that. I don't want to get ahead of any announcement on his part, but I would say this, that when it came to testing, there was that same question. What if I'm uninsured and don't have the ability to afford a test? This president, before it was even addressed in Congress, called in the private sector and got companies to say, yes, we will cover both treatment and we will cover testing. And then eventually that was inscribed into law. So this president, before it was even an issue on the Hill, took great measures with testing, and he will do the same for vaccines. And I would just note, as Dr. Fauci said on the Hill today, there are 8 vaccine candidates, and on January 10th, we received the genetic sequence. The 11th, there was a plan developed. The 14th, development began, and 62 days later, we entered phase 1 clinical trials for a vaccine, which is the fastest ever in Dr. Fauci's knowledge, at least. So that's a pretty good pace that I think.
Note that is none of that has anything to do with Trump, right? Remdesivir, I mean, none of this stuff has anything to do with Trump.
In April, will he work with them, encourage them to make sure that vaccines are affordable to everyone?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Yes, we do.
Thank you and welcome. I haven't had a chance
Thank
to
you.
do that in this room. I have a couple questions. First, on reopening.
Here we go.
Dr. Fauci today stressed many times that reopening without following the federal guidelines and the
People asking the
welcome.
question.
I haven't had a chance
Thank
to
you.
do that in this room. I have a couple questions. First, on reopening. Dr. Fauci today stressed many times that reopening without following the federal guidelines and the gating criteria could lead to more outbreaks and could turn back the clock. Does President Trump still believe in these federal guidelines? And if so, why isn't he urging states to follow them
Yeah, they're not
instead
following
of
them.
asking them to move quickly to reopen?
Well, he has encouraged states to follow the guidelines. That's still consistently our recommendation today, that you
States
should
aren't
follow
doing
the
it.
phased approach to reopening as outlined in the data. I do want to stress, as the president has stressed, that we do want to reopen this country because there are consequences that run the other way when we stay closed down as a country. And I want to run through a few of those with you. A hotline run by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services saw a 1,000% increase in responses during April as we kept this country.
So they're going to do the thing now about, suicides and stuff like that, which Trump never cared about before. Let me just remind you guys, of the states that have opened, almost none of them met what were called the pre-phase 1 guidelines. To go to phase 1, you were supposed to meet a whole bunch of guidelines. Most of the states that have opened never met those. So like, what is the point of those guidelines even?
See as many people in the halls, and that is quite frightening because the consequence of that is this. According to the IQVIA Institute for Human Data Science, a total of 80,000 plus diagnoses of 5 common cancers in the United States are projected to be missed or delayed during the 3-month period of early March to early June, which is why this president has always said, go to your doctor, do your screenings. There's a way to safely do this. If you feel chest pain, go to your doctor. We can't scare people from going to hospital hospitals. It's a consequence of staying closed, though. When people are scared, they're scared to even go to their doctor, and there are consequences for that. And finally, I would just point out a recent CNN article from Friday noted a national public health group that warned as many as 75,000 Americans could die because of drug or alcohol misuse and suicide as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. So there are consequences to us staying closed, and it's why I believe it was 8 medical groups came out with a statement. 8 medical groups noted concerns that some people with symptoms of heart attack, stroke, and cardiac arrest are avoiding hospitals. So it's why I've said from this podium, I think at least 2 times, today's the second or third, you've got to go to your doctor. We've got to encourage this country to safely reopen.
Last week you said it would be nonsensical to test all Americans, and yesterday the administration celebrated testing 2.7% of the population. In order to reopen 100% of the country, what amount of testing does make sense to you? And what's an alternative to testing to track and contain
Not gonna get
the
an answer to
virus
that.
to make people feel confident to get back to normal?
Sure, we have to engage in strategic testing, which is what our experts have always said. Look, you had Admiral Joie who said it's a bad strategy to say that you need to test everyone because testing a person now just means they're negative at this moment. A point also emphasized by Dr. Fauci. If you get a test today, that does not mean that tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day you might get exposed, which is why we acknowledge testing is not preventative. What is preventative is wearing this mask. What is preventative is social distancing. What is preventative...
Well, but it's not totally accurate because if you test a lot of asymptomatic people and they find out they're positive, they can then isolate and it is preventative. So it's not true what she said. It's just not true. I'm trying to think of another way to say it. It's a lie.
Deployed, and I stand by the comment that I made earlier. Yes.
Kayleigh, could you speak just a bit about the next round of coronavirus funding, the bill that the Speaker is releasing today? What provisions are a no-go for the administration? What can you get behind?
Look, I won't get ahead of the president in negotiating, but and I certainly won't condition any future legislation on a certain proposal. But I will say that the president has noted a payroll tax is something that he's looked at, not conditioning it on that, but noting that something he desires to see, and it's smart policy. In fact, according to Stephen Moore and Art Laffer, this means, quote, every worker in America
Stephen
would get
Moore.
a substantial pay raise.
That's funny.
What is so promising about the payroll tax is that it's a regressive tax. So the lowest wage workers are in fact the ones who would be most helped because they pay more payroll tax than they do income tax. So that's something the president's mentioned, not necessarily as a condition. I won't negotiate here with Speaker Pelosi, but I encourage her to work with the president and help these low-income individuals get this tax cut that they deserve.
Just one
Yes.
follow-up. I'm sorry. Michael Pack has a confirmation hearing on Thursday. Could you speak to what the president wants him to do, if confirmed, to change the way the Voice of America operates?
Yeah, I won't get ahead of that hearing, which is later in the week, as you know.
She has no idea.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Kayleigh. I want to ask you about the task force. The president and the vice president said last week that there'd be some new additions to the task force and that those would be announced on Monday. We haven't seen those names yet. Do you have any update on that and whether there are going to in fact be people added to that task force?
Yeah, there will be additions, but no announcements on that just
Maybe
yet.
Newt Gingrich.
Jeff?
I think, Kayleigh, there were some deaths in St. Petersburg today from ventilators, Russian ventilators that exploded. I'm wondering whether you can
Oh my
tell us
God,
what
is
happened
that
to the
true?
Russian ventilators that were sent to the United States, and whether those ventilators have been used, and if not, if they're being taken out
Wow,
of
that's
commission.
insane.
Look, that's the first I'm hearing of that story, so I don't have any updates on that other than to note that we are way ahead of where we should be on ventilators. As I noted in my opening remarks, 100,000 ventilators in 100 days is really good, and no one has died for lack of a ventilator, but that's the first time
That's a
hearing
lie.
of that
That's a
story.
lie.
Yesterday, the president indicated that he might be communicating with Vice President Pence by phone for a while while the Vice President keeps some distance. Can you give us an update on whether or not those two men are going to see each other in person, or whether, I know the Vice President has been working at the White House, is he keeping his distance from the president for a while?
Now, the Vice President has made the choice to keep his distance for a few days, and I would just note that that's his personal decision to make
Of
that.
course.
As to how many days he does it, again, that's a decision for the Vice President. Yes.
And then a related question, when is the next time that we might see Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci here in this room
Never.
giving us an update on kind of the status of the public health regarding coronavirus?
Look, we've heard from Dr. Fauci pretty much the entirety of the day. He had a hearing, as you noted, so you've probably heard from him more hours today than you've ever heard from Dr. Fauci. You hear from these experts regularly out on television, and we'll see the next time they're up here in this capacity, but we certainly have valued their time, and we continue to value their time.
It's been a while since we've seen Dr. Birx, though, for example. I mean, she is the coordinator of the coronavirus task force. When might we see her and be able to get an update from her and be able to ask questions of her?
Forget it.
Yeah, again, I don't know when in this capacity you will see her, but I talk to Dr. Birx regularly. In fact, I talked to her just before I came out here because I had some questions about some funny numbers I heard from Senator Elizabeth Warren, and she helped me to correct those numbers, which I'd like to correct here because I think it's unfair to the American people to give inflated case numbers and mortality numbers because it leads to those same Americans making
Question was when we would see Dr. Birx.
Mammogram to not have the cancer screenings they need. So I'd like to just reveal to you some information Dr. Birx just shared with
that
me.
wasn't what it was, but
Elizabeth
no,
Warren
no, no,
erroneously
no,
said there were 25,000 new cases today. In fact, there were less than 20,000. Senator Warren said there were 2,000 deaths. In fact, there have been less than 1,000. I spoke with Dr. Birx about that. So I'd encourage our Democratic colleagues and all Americans to make sure we're putting out their good information because it does have consequences.
That wasn't
Yes.
the question.
Thank you. The Justice Department is considering bringing federal hate crime charges against the two men charged with murdering Ahmaud Arbery. Does the president think that's appropriate?
Look, I'd refer you to the Department of Justice statement, which is this, that we are considering the request of the Attorney General of Georgia and have asked that he forward to federal authorities any information that he has about the handling of that investigation. We'll continue to assess all information and we'll take any appropriate action that is warranted by the facts and the law. And the president, I've heard him say it to me personally, his heart breaks for the family of Ahmaud Arbery, and we want to see justice in that case as the facts lead us to that place. Yes.
White House staff yesterday were asked to wear masks around the West Wing, except when they were seated at their desks. I can't help but notice you're not wearing a mask. What's the reason for that? Is that a television thing, or?
No, it's because I'm distanced from you. You'd probably have a hard time hearing from me right now should I have a mask on and that be muffled. I'm delivering information to the American people. I'm an appropriate distance away. I had a negative test today. I had a negative test yesterday, and I'm in an okay place. Yes.
Go ahead. On Afghanistan, if I may, President Ashraf Ghani has put his troops on an offensive footing. Has President Trump spoken to him about that? And what does it mean for the US-led peace process?
Not that I'm aware of, and I don't have any new information on that. Yes.
We're seeing a White House report on locations to watch and with increased cases. Can you hear me okay?
You said locations to watch?
Locations to watch with increased cases. And
Okay.
we're seeing rates spiking in several spots in the Midwest, including Kansas City. Is this a concern of yours, and can you address it?
I did speak with Dr. Birx about this just before coming out, and I think you're referring to a document that was put out that wasn't a White House document. It was a FEMA document that looked at what was going on in the Midwest, and she made the point to me, she showed me a document that showed that these are isolated outbreaks that where there are specific instances in, let's say, a meat processing facility or a prison where we isolate that there's a problem. We're able to contact trace and pretty quickly resolve the situation.
Yeah, come on, guys. Everything's fine. We shouldn't be worried that Texas, Florida, Georgia, and places that ridiculed the closings are now becoming the places with the fastest case increases. Everything's fine.
System is working, that we're able to identify what the president said are embers and put them out. It's the system at work. Yes.
Embers.
You mentioned as an example of the risk of not closing, people not going to medical appointments. How do you extend that argument to restaurants, nail salons, barber shops and beauties? Are those the kind of essential things you're talking about?
What I'm talking about is we have a phase plan to reopen, and you can follow those guidelines, and the restaurants are in phases, and the entertainment facilities, you noted, are in phases as accordance with declining cases. But as a whole, with the totality of the circumstances, when you have a society that's shut down and people are locked in their homes and they're isolated, it leads to the very suicide line increase calls that I noted. It leads to drug abuse. There are consequences to eternally staying shut down, which is why you have to find...
Remember, no one's suggesting eternally being shut shutdown. And if we did a proper 60-day shutdown on March 5th, it'd be over by now and we would be reopening things.
Decision for America going forward. He made the right decision to shut down the country at the time he did because there were 2.2 million lives.
Remember, Trump didn't make that decision. In fact, it started being made by a whole bunch of governors. And even after Trump asked for it, many governors never did it. Now the lies are coming fast and furious now.
Dr. Fauci made today. He said, I think we are going in the right direction, but the right direction does not mean we have by any means total control of this outbreak. How does that square with the president's statement yesterday that we have prevailed over the outbreak?
Well, the president made clear he was talking about testing. The fact that we can say we're doing
No, he
double
didn't.
that of any
That's
other
a lie.
country. The fact that we can
That's
put up
just
that
straight up lie.
graph that shows South Korea as a small little red bar of testing per capita, and every bar beside it is an American state or territory outdoing what South Korea has done. And let's
South
note
Korea
that
hasn't had
South
cases for
Korea
6
was
weeks.
the gold standard for testing. In fact, on
Yeah.
March 13th,
6 weeks ago, they don't have cases anymore.
was South Korea is doing 10,000 coronavirus tests a day. The U.S. is struggling for even a small fraction of that. And here we are on May 11th with a Washington Post headline. The administration keeps bragging that the U.S. testing now is better than South Korea's was a month ago. So you can't demand that we reach South Korea and then say that we're bragging when we do. This is a moment where the American private sector succeeded. This administration mobilized that testing. Every state is better off than South Korea at
Well,
this
very
moment. And that is a
delusional.
very good thing and something to be
Acutely,
celebrated because it's
painfully
American
delusional.
innovation at its best with 92 emergency use authorizations. And it's this administration under President Trump working.
Does the president agree with Dr. Fauci that we do not have total control over this outbreak?
The president believes in the phased guidelines to reopening, which Dr. Fauci signed off on along with Dr. Birx, and we encourage every state and governor to follow. Yes.
Thank you, Kayleigh. The president said on Monday that Florida has so much testing that testers are literally sitting around waiting for people and that there is a, quote, great overcapacity. Yet the reality in the state is there are still widespread criticism, reports of not enough testing. And the Kaiser Family Foundation ranks Florida 24th in the country per capita when it comes to testing. So is the president being overly optimistic about the situation in Florida?
Not in the slightest. I was actually in the Oval Office when that discussion transpired, and the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis, who's doing a phenomenal job, talked about that there was over testing ability at these sites. So there were extra tests. There wasn't enough demand. There weren't people showing up to use them all. He said that had happened around some sites in the state. He saw it firsthand. He's the governor of Florida, and that's a good thing. And we're able to fulfill Governor DeSantis's plan in full that he has laid out as necessary to reopening the state of Florida, which happens to be my great home state. Yes.
Data does not support that, Kayleigh. So is the president just listening to the governor, or is he looking at the data?
Oh, he's looking at the data. As I noted to you, Admiral Joie has a chart of every single governor's plan and has said we will fulfill every single governor's plan. Governor DeSantis was
But do you concede that Florida's 24th in testing is the question?
through testing sites.
With the restarting of the economies on both sides of the Canadian and U.S. border, you know how much trade between the two sides are essential for communities.
Here's our favorite guy.
Can you update us on the plans for reopening and also a timeline for reopening the border?
Yeah, no announcements on that front today. Yep. Chanel?
With the release of the transcripts related to Adam Schiff's Russia probe this week,
Oh my God.
Is there any information you can share with us as to what the DOJ has shared with the White House on whether it is investigating Obama administration officials on this matter?
So I don't have any updates on that front because that's currently a DOJ matter. But you did refer to transcripts, and I do think it's an important moment to talk about what was in some of the transcripts that were released prior to today, so not the specific ones that you're asking about. But we learned from newly released transcripts a few things. We learned that what some Obama officials were saying publicly was much different than what they were saying privately. James Clapper was out there saying that he had evidence that this was worse than Watergate. When in fact, a few weeks later, he was saying privately, I never saw any direct empirical evidence that the Trump campaign or someone in it
So
was
this isn't
plotting.
even related to the question, and the question was not even clear to the person asking it. Funny story about, so that's the OAN reporter, Chanel Rion. She reportedly has been walking around the White House with her own chair. Like she tries to get her own folding chair, from what I've read, into these, because she doesn't actually have a seat. And it still remains a question in terms of the security situation of how she doesn't have a seat, but she's still, honestly, I don't get it. But reportedly, she's been walking around with a folding chair, if you can imagine something more visually absurd.
Collusion that these Obama administration officials never existed, they never saw any evidence of, but for 3 years, the American people were dragged through the mud and told that their choice for the President of the United States might have been a Russian asset based on no evidence at all. This president was exonerated by the Mueller report.
That's a lie.
And there's some real
The Mueller report said we cannot exonerate Trump on obstruction of justice. That's a direct lie.
Privately. Thank you so much. I think I got to all of you, and we'll be back soon.
There it is, wrapping up. Wow, what an event. What an event, ladies and gentlemen. I think there were probably, I mean, it's like, if you ask me now, how many lies total were there? I don't know the number. I mean, I guess there were probably 40, like is 40 lies reason, 35 lies? I don't know. I'd have to really go through with a fine tooth comb. Maybe tomorrow I would actually, or whatever the next one is, make note of each lie or distortion. But I mean, it's like, I guess about a few dozen lies were told. It was only like a 25-minute press conference again. People asking for name one lie. Okay, one lie would be the Mueller report completely exonerated Trump. That's directly not true. Another lie would be no one died from lack of a ventilator. We know of at least a few situations where that is certainly questionable at minimum. You know, we could go on and on and on. There are lies about testing, lies about taking credit for things that have nothing to do with Trump, deflecting blame. I mean, some are direct lies, some are deception, some are double speak. There's all sorts of different stuff. Okay, let's see. I do want to make sure that I say thank you to Thomas Cardarella, Mark Nyes, Jonathan Miguel Rosado Sanchez, Janet Levinson, and Susan Gunther. Very, very much appreciated. I am going to go directly outside right now, and I am going to put on my Instagram right now, okay? So if you follow me on Instagram, you will see this. My cucumbers have sprouted, my friends. My cucumbers have sprouted in my coronavirus victory garden. That's it for the stream. Follow me on Instagram at david.pacman. In 10 minutes, you'll be able to see my cukes. I'm going to show everybody my cukes. Thank you for joining me.